Hey everybody, welcome to Ref Time, powered by RTS and produced by Coraggio Media. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Crane. We'll be covering rules, plays, points of emphasis, and all things official.
So today we're here to talk about some recent events that happened in the Fort Wayne area during a tournament. However, it's not the first time it's happened.
A basketball tournament.
It's a basketball tournament. It's not the first time that it's happened. It has happened numerous times. It's just the first time that it's actually been recorded and put out to the media. I believe over 4 million tweets right now.
It's popular.
Very popular. And so we wanted to welcome Mr. Jake back because he is the chairperson of our association and has a lot of great input on this particular topic. But we are here to talk about the abuse of officials, not just basketball officials, but officials as a whole. And so, I can talk from personal experience. I've had, parents come up to me, during a game, after a game, whatever. I was just telling you, I had a grandmother came up to me in the bathroom one time. And so it's something that is ongoing. But the beautiful thing is that this one was actually recorded. And so now we can go to the next level from there. So take it over, Jake. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess from an emotional standpoint, there was a lot of anger from my side that it got to this point that, it happened in Fort Wayne, in my hometown, that to an official that we all know.
Right.
And I think that's when it hits closest to home, and that's when it gets you to a point where you've got to start thinking about, all right, what do we need to do? What do we need to talk about? What do we need to take action on? And I think that's the point where we're at right now is what course of action do we need to address on not only the fans and the behavior side, but maybe us as officials take a look inside and see what we can do as well. Because ultimately it's a shared responsibility. We both have a part in that game, and we need to be held accountable both from that side of it and from our side of it. So I think that's where I would start. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, so I look at the first thing I thought of was understand your environment that you're in. Mm-hmm. So a summer basketball game does not hold the same weight as a regular season varsity game, as a tournament game, as a state championship game. And when I look at the environment, practice, scrimmages, like I said, regular season games, tournament games, in my mind, summer is for teaching. Mm-hmm. Summer is for training, getting reps, playing better competition, learning teamwork with new players that maybe you don't associate with during the year. And part of that is overcoming some adversity as well, mm-hmm. right? And I think refs can be a part of that sometimes throughout the course of the game. But winning is a benefit,
right,
and not the goal.
Right.
The goal is to get better.
It should be.
Right.
Right.
And this goes for both players and for referees, right? Because I think as a referee, I go out during the summer to focus on one area that maybe I struggle with. For me, it's travels. I have to find the pivot foot a little better. I have to, handle situations better and even see more plays. I mean, have that knowledge of, on the court, we talk about having a mental playbook and knowing when the play is coming at you, what play could possibly happen. So anticipate the play and not the call. And summer's a great time to do that because you get a lot of reps in. So that's kind of where I would start, is making sure everyone understands that this is practice. This is a controlled scrimmage.
And like you said, practice. And practice for officials as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just for the kids because, we have new people all the time. Right. And how are they supposed to get better mm-hmm. if they're not out there blowing their whistle or seeing plays?
Correct.
Granted, we're not going to blow our whistle on everything, and especially a new person, they're scared to death. Mm-hmm. So it's all practice. Yep. So I absolutely agree. Did you have a question?
No, I'm listening for now.
Okay.
Just gathering
I
information
thought
before I
you
come.
were like getting ready to say something.
Yeah, I wrote down a note that he said, but I'll address it. I want to keep listening and
Okay.
see where you guys are.
Yeah.
Because, I've heard a lot of people with their opinions on this, and I'm just listening to opinions before I give my responses.
Okay.
But obviously, this behavior's caused a lot of officials to walk away from summer basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that's becoming alarming. It's becoming a burden on those that choose to go out and referee during the summer as well. I mean, you have 25 games in a weekend on 10 different courts, so you have 250 games to cover with 2 officials, so you need 500 official slots, basically. And if half of your officials do not have a good experience, have a bad experience with fans, coaches, whatever that event involves, then now instead of having 100 officials to cover those 250 games, now you have 50 officials.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of working 8 games in a weekend, now you're working 16.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to, I'm not going to be good on my 10th game of the day.
I'm not going to be good on my 4th game of the day.
And
I'm usually exhausted mentally. Physically, I mean, I can go out there and I can do 12 games in a day.
right.
Physically, but mentally, you're done. You're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard the same rhetoric from the fans, from the
Mm-hmm.
coaches. Why aren't you calling this travel? Why aren't you doing this? Because it's my 4th, 5th, 7th game of the day. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm just trying to manage the game right
Exactly.
now, Coach, instead of, personally, I want to give my best effort every time I go out on the floor.
Right.
And that's hindered sometimes because of the amount of games that these referees are working throughout the course of a weekend.
Right.
And that's the tough part, is it's a double-edged sword. You're only making a certain amount of money per game,
Right.
so you have to work a game to get that money. But at the same time, you can only work a certain number of games physically, because that's the only way you can stay focused and
Right.
be on the court. So
Yeah,
that's
I've
the
learned
problem.
that I'm good for about 3 games.
Mhm.
By the 4th game, like I said, I'm usually pretty worn out by then.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I can do them, but like you said, it's exhausting. And the problem is that you do have those weekend officials that just want to do all day long, and that's great. That's great for them. But again, we go back to, are you really officiating the game, or are you just out there walking up and down the court?
Right.
Because that's not what I want to do. I want to be able to run with the players.
Mhm.
I want to be able to give them the best officiated game that I can.
Yep.
And granted, again, we are not perfect.
Mhm.
We do make mistakes, and we do blow calls, and we do let some things go, and it is what it is. But at no point in time is it acceptable for a parent or a fan to come onto the court.
Correct.
At no point. At that point, you have now crossed the line.
Mhm.
And we have to defend ourselves. People are talking, well, who threw the punch? The first punch, we can't see it. That parent walked onto the court.
Correct.
That was a violation right there.
Yep.
You crossed the line. So, I mean, and we all have heard, and we've all, as far as we know, the parent is the first to throw the punch in this particular situation. Irrelevant, he walked onto the court
Mhm.
along with his wife.
Yes.
Unacceptable.
It's yeah. After he was asked to leave.
After he was asked to leave.
So that's
And after they had repeatedly berated the official throughout the game that they were losing by 40 points.
correct.
And
So one question I want to ask you guys: how many of us here have had? You've explained it or expressed it. Jake, have you had a parent or fan / parent come onto the court to approach, and you or one of your fellow officials? Have you ever experienced that?
Not onto the court. I'd say the closest thing that I've had is I've had a coach come onto the court and threaten to punch me if I called an intentional foul on his player, because there was a hard play at the basket in transition on the other end. I called the foul, called an intentional foul, turned to report to the table, and he met me before I could turn and report at the
oh
table.
wow.
And physically, or not physically, but threatened physical contact with me. He said I would punch you if you call that an intentional foul.
But you had already called it.
Correct. So
I don't understand his
what
mentality.
did we do with this coach?
So the coach was ejected, and
As he should
luckily
have been.
I was working with a Fort Wayne police officer who also was a referee, so that helps. You know, I had protection on the
Right.
floor with me at that
Right.
point in time, but if I did not, you know, who's to say that, you know. But again, in that situation, I heard his comment. I backed away from him.
Mm-hmm.
I got separation, and I went and told my partner, here's what he said, here's what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to handle this. And that's when he was asked to leave, and I got out of there to diffuse the situation as best I could. And then my partner took care of the coach, and when we got administration, got him out of there. But
this was a varsity level game?
no, this was AAU Summer League game.
Oh.
It was probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay.
But it was probably a freshman, sophomore level AAU team.
Part of the reason I asked that question is because I've had several conversations with people since this incident Saturday, and one of the conversations I was having, we were talking about, this was a fellow official, and he was talking that there used to be a rating system for officials when back in the day when Spiece was like the heyday of basketball in the area, and all the AAU and all the high tournaments went on. You remember those days? Those were fun days.
Yes.
But he was saying that back then we had a rating system, which I didn't know existed. He said we had an A, a B, and a C rating system, which means the A officials, which were usually probably officials who did college as well.
Okay.
And then your B officials who were probably considered high-ranking varsity level officials, and then your C officials who are people that don't really try to aspire to the higher areas of officiating. And as I was listening to him, I'm going, this makes sense, but I never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made me think, well, what rating would I earn? Because I never heard of it, you know.
I feel like it's a secret rating.
Yeah,
like
it sounded like
certain
it was
people,
a secret society. And
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but I was thinking. And then finally I said, well, I know that some people probably would view me as, because he said something about officials who have black marks. And I said, I probably have a black mark. And he goes, yeah. I was like, wow, you know, I do. But I think it's because in my past I called so many carry dribbles. And that got me a black mark, a black eye in a lot of people's minds. And I told him, I said, I'm okay with that. But the reason I brought that question up is because he was saying that if there was more A officials out there, that incident probably would not have happened. I could not disagree with that because Tanya and I do college, and we realize that when we go do AAU or especially tournaments, we know how to diffuse a lot of situations like you said.
Right.
Because I was telling him we know how to read the crowd. We can tell the temperament of the players. I can tell when a coach is getting exasperated. And I notice how I'll just, like, we had a situation Saturday at this, was it Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
I think it was Sunday. And the coach was all upset with us because at the end of the game, he was like, "This fouls are 9-1," and they had lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him, and the only thing that was going through my mind is, yeah, the fouls are 9-1, but you guys are up at
2 of
11.
those were technicals on his players.
Correct. Yeah, the same player.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked. No, it wasn't the same
they
player.
were 2 different players.
2 different players. But I looked at him with the thought in my mind, but you guys were up 11 at halftime. And people are always screaming about statistics with the fouls were unbalanced. And I'm going, but you were up 11 at halftime. You ended up losing by 6. How in the world do you pin that on officials? I don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be the style of the players. That's got to be the team camaraderie changing. It's got to be a combination. It can't just be officiating.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and I think first half they were up in fouls, I believe. So I'm looking at him and I'm wondering, and he's screaming at the top of his voice as he's going through the
was very
handshake line, upset with us. And another coach who was affiliated with him was standing on the sideline. When I walked by, he says, of these janky officials. And 2 thoughts went through my mind. Number one, you were up 11.
Mm-hmm.
You were up 11. When I played ball, if I was up 11, I'm not going to blame officials.
Wasn't one of the
game.
comments that we were cheating the kids?
Yeah. He said, you cheating the kids. And I looked at him.
Because I care who wins an AAU or
I thought,
summer basketball game.
I thought you're up 11.
Or
and
any
the
game for
second
that
thing
matter.
is, you're teaching these kids to blame somebody else.
Right.
And I told that official I was talking to, I see a bigger problem in America is not just in basketball, but Americans, for whatever reason, social media, whatever, people don't want to take personal responsibility anymore. I see that all the time. You see these crazy drivers yelling at people, cursing at people in their car, and I'm going, why is this person cursing? This person's always driven like that in front of them. What? And people don't want to take personal responsibility. If you don't like the way they're driving, go around. I don't know. I'm just ranting, I guess. But what's your take on that? The rating system and personal responsibility. What do you think about all that?
The rating system, I don't really.
You haven't heard about it?
I haven't heard about it.
I haven't either.
Again,
How long have you been in Fort Wayne?
2011, so 12 years now.
Yeah, and I think that stuff, but what was going on at Spiece, I think that's been about 10 years, hasn't it? Since Spiece was kind of like the mainstay or the place to play.
Yeah, when I first moved back, it was where I got started. I mean, it's where I met people and made connections and
that was where I did my training, Court 1.
Well, maybe you were an A official and didn't know it.
Maybe.
But yeah, I couldn't disagree with him that that's not a bad system to go by.
Right.
It's really not.
But then you run into, okay, well, I'm an A. I mean, I don't know what rating I would get, but say I'm an A-rated official, but I go out there and I do a game. I mean, this, stupidity is going to happen regardless of what level you are, because when one team is winning and another team is losing, there's always, like you said, blame. They're blaming us. Yeah. Whether we're the best official or not. These people don't understand.
It's going to happen,
training.
but I think it also depends on how we respond to it.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference between an official who's doing 14 games in a day, which is not a wise thing to do. We all know that, because the reasons you said, we get physically and especially mentally tired. And you and I have learned, I know myself, if I do 7 games, I'm going to be very irritable. And my patience with people is going to be very, very low. Yes. One of the things I think Jake said earlier, I took notes on, you said this behavior has caused a lot of officials to walk away from basketball.
Summer basketball.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a good point, because you and I have kind of walked away from summer basketball. And I think we've done it because of the stuff that happened Saturday, and we realized we don't want to put ourselves in that position. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
And then what does that leave? That leaves a lot of guys who just want to make extra money, and most of us would probably look at them and go, nothing personal, but they probably see officials. Yep. When you have a bunch, and this guy I was talking to, this official said, when they did the rating system, he was part of it. He says, we learned that you wouldn't put 2C officials together, especially on a high-profile summer basketball game. You just wouldn't do it. Yeah. Well, if there's a lack of officials, what choice do the assigners have?
Well, it was funny because I walked in on Sunday, and I was walking around Sport 1, and one of the courts that I happened to be walking by, the one official was standing there, didn't have his whistle in his mouth, with his arms crossed. And I was like, okay. And
was the game going on?
Yeah, oh yeah, the play was coming at him. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, he's on the baseline. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So then I'm like, well, where's his partner? So then I look, his partner's out at half court twirling around. And I'm like,
what do you mean twirling around?
He literally was he was spinning around. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was turning around.
In a circle?
Yeah. I don't know if he was turning around to say something to the coach or what he was doing, but
did he keep turning?
It was like 2 turns, and I'm looking at him like.
So he wasn't talking to the coach.
I don't know what he was doing, and I'm thinking, okay, C-rated, but also I get why parents are upset when you come out and you see stuff like that. I get it.
Yep.
But when you have officials that are engaged, that are there, and they are, making calls, whether you agree with the calls or not. We're there and we're working, and most of us are giving our best.
Yeah.
Well, but keep in mind now, you and I did some games Saturday, and I was telling this other official, we were at Spiece, and we did.
We were scheduled games. 4, yeah.
We were scheduled, so we did 4
games. We
had
one forfeit.
One more than I like to do, but anyway, we did them. So we were doing, in the very first game, I noticed that the fans, I think it was a really hype game, and they knew it. So they were really into it. But I noticed when you and I the way we work together is we run the court.
Mm-hmm.
We call what needs to be called. We keep the game under control.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I was talking to a coach yesterday, we're gonna hope to have him on. He was saying that one of the things he really likes about you is that you enforce tucking the shirts.
Mm-hmm.
He said he really loves that because he said he can't tell the kids enough to do it, and he gets tired of telling them. But when the official tells them to do it, then they have to do it. And then the the jewelry thing.
Mm-hmm.
He says, Crane, I love it when you guys do that because it makes he said they just play better. They don't even realize it, but they play better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and I did that, we enforced uniforms,
Mm-hmm.
no jewelry. We called the game correctly, made the correct signals. We did the game just the way we would do a college game or a high school game. And I noticed that
Except we didn't switch. We didn't
switch.
We don't do
That's
a lot of
true.
switching.
We don't do a lot of switching because we got four games.
got 4 games.
But I noticed that the fans, at first they were kind of yelling at us. And I learned something at that point. It goes with what you said. If you have lazy officials, and I'm not saying the official got into the fight. I'm not saying he's one of those C officials, lazy officials. I'm just talking about in general. If you have C-level officials doing summer ball, and they're always coming out there walking, they're twirling, they're standing on their arms crossed, whistle not in mouth, there's an obvious foul. They don't blow it. They don't get on top of the game. And then these people come to the next game, they see it game after game. They expect to see that.
Right.
And then they come on our court, and it's amazing. I'm looking around after you, or while you and I are officiating, the courts around us. This court over here, all the kids run around with their shirts out. This court over here, kids run around with big pieces of tape
Gaudy
on their
looking white tape on their ears. And it clearly states on the rules that no jewelry.
Well, it doesn't say that. It says
No, it does.
NFHS rules.
No, on the paperwork that was out on this tournament, at the bottom of the page, in bold letters, capital letters, no jewelry.
Yeah, but the problem is a lot of whatever level officials don't enforce it.
Right.
So the parents come out, the coaches come out, they see that on a regular basis. They expect it. Then when you have officials who are going to follow the rules, going to enforce the rules, they're not used to it. But I noticed that the attitudes of the fans in the stands on that game, that changed.
Mm-hmm.
Then they started cheering for their team. And I think what it was, I talked to a fan later, they were like, you guys are real. Y'all are real officials. And I kind of looked at him like, I don't know what that means, but okay.
I don't know what that means.
But I think what he was saying is that we were approaching the game in a serious manner, even though it was summer ball.
Right.
I agree with you that it is a developmental time for kids,
Right.
but I think it's a developmental time for us to sharpen our skills and to get out there and run the court
Right.
and participate and blow the calls right. But a lot of guys, a lot of officials come out and their attitude is, I'm going to do 12 games today, so I got to pace myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And again, that goes back to a shortage of officials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you talk about the fans changing their behavior and cheering. It's kind of the same way what I think about coaches is it's our job to get the coaches back to coaching
Mm-hmm.
when they kind of get off course and
Right.
veer off course to
Right.
they put their focus on the referees. It's, by us putting them back into the coaching mode, it helps our game most of the time.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think your comment on that with the fans cheering rather than yelling, I think that has a lot to say about doing a good job and
Mm-hmm.
looking like you know what you're doing out there. Because if I'm sitting in the stands and I look out and a guy's twirling at midcourt or has his arms crossed, to me, he doesn't want to be there.
He
Right.
doesn't want to be there.
And
you feel the game's out of control at that point.
right,
Well, there's not going to be any control.
right.
I mean, they're not focused on that, and then and a lot of times they wonder, well, why is everybody fighting? Well, I don't know. Maybe because you're not managing the game.
Yeah.
So that's very hard. And then we also have with summer ball. The other issue that we have with summer ball is that we have basically weekend warrior dads
Mm-hmm.
that are the coaches.
Yeah.
That really are coaching most likely because they want their kid to get all the playing time that they can get, and that's the only way they're going to get it done. And so they go out there and they coach, and they don't know the rules. They don't care to know the rules. So if I give a bench technical, a coach a technical, and we tell them, okay, now you have the seatbelt rule, they have no idea what that means.
Yep.
Well, he doesn't have to sit down. Why do I have to sit down? Well, because you got a technical and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a rule. You're right.
Yes, on TV, the game that you watch on TV, that is not a rule.
Correct.
Correct.
The NBA game, it is not a rule.
But today, That is the high school rule.
That is the high school rule.
Yeah, it's
So it's very frustrating. So let's talk about some, options that we have. Obviously, people don't understand the training that we go through as officials. I mean, we do go through training when we first get our, when we get our license. There's different ways to get training. Some people don't get training; they just walk out there and think they know what they're doing. But throughout the course, if we want to move up, we do have training. We go to summer camps, and we have, I've just lost the term, but we have other officials that are there critiquing us and telling us what we can do better. There we go. We have clinicians. So we go to camps. We have, the opportunity to move up, whether it's you want to go to, the sectionals or whatever, or you want to move up to varsity, or you want to move up to college. I mean, we have all these different camps that we go to because we want to get better. We have our summertime clinics that we go to that is mandatory through the state if we want to do sectional games. And again, we have clinicians there. We go through different training. We talk about new rules. That's another thing. How many years has it been since there's not been an over-the-back call? And parents are still screaming over the back. It's not a call. That's not in the rule book.
Yep.
And so, we have updated rules every year. We have points of emphasis, which, we talk about at the beginning of every season. And they vary from each year. One year it might be, hey, we're focusing on the travel call or the carry dribble or, whatever. And so as officials, we go through training. At the higher level, it's even more intense.
Well, I want to break in, Jake, because she posed a question. She said, what kind of answers or what kind of solutions have you thought of?
It's still a work in process right now. Again, your knee-jerk reaction is let's pull everybody off the court because the only way to counteract an extreme situation like this is to cause an extreme situation the other way.
Extreme reaction. Yep.
So my first reaction, and again, as the basketball chairman for the association, I feel it's my job to speak out because, number one, we didn't hear a response from the association or from the organization that put on the tournament. There was no public response to, say that we don't condone this type of activity at our events. This is not acceptable. We're doing everything we can in our power to, work with local law enforcement and everything like that. We heard nothing.
The police weren't even called.
Correct.
Well,
and
I do want to say that we finally did get an announcement from them.
Yes, but it wasn't public.
Well, yeah, but it's public for us as officials, but it wasn't public, right?
Yes.
But at least they did give a response. And the reason I'm saying that is because I heard a lot of officials say there was no response. And I'm going, as a person that follows business, to me, I thought it was wise the way they did it. They didn't come out with an immediate statement. They absorbed what happened and they talked about it and found out, because they have different groups they have to talk to in terms of how they're going to handle situations. So I thought they did it intelligently, but maybe you guys disagree.
Well, I guess one of my questions is, so they're making the statement that there was an off-duty police officer that was there. My question is, did he just happen to be there?
No. According to the statement they gave us, he was hired to be there.
Is that what it said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, so that's been an issue. The security. Obviously, we need to have more security, and we've been talking about that for years, about more security. Maybe instead of off duty, or maybe they need to actually be in uniform.
Let me share this. What he said. You got it too?
Yeah.
Came in at 12:49 yesterday. It was a text to all the officials. As a host for youth basketball events, the Sport One Parkview Fieldhouse and Gym Rats basketball strive to create a positive environment for all athletes, coaches, and spectators. Prior to every event, teams are provided with a code of conduct, which outlines expectations for behavior. We are conducting an internal review of this weekend's incident and will be following up with all parties to determine appropriate corrective action and prevent future concerns. Contrary to earlier reports that were published, the facility does have security for events, and an off-duty officer was present. We stand by our officials and will continue to work together to provide a safe and healthy environment at our events. Thank you, Todd Hensley and Chris Ponce. Again, I think it was intelligent the way they handled it. And a lot of officials might disagree with me, but I try to look at both sides when I see an event, a controversy go down. And sometimes that gets me in trouble with the people that think I'm on their side. But that's the way I do things. I look at it and go, okay. And I sit back, okay, what's your point? What's your point? People get emotional. We're all emotional, but I try to set my emotions aside to figure out if what's happening doesn't make sense. Jake, I think you're kind of that kind of thinker too.
I am. And to me, the lack of response initially made me, as the basketball chair, have a response because there was nothing being said, so we're not condoning this activity. We're not, we don't want this to happen at any event that we officiate at. So it was more from my perspective to spark that conversation and to start that conversation because to me it sounded like they were dragging their feet a little bit too long. They said statement by the end of the day and then it comes through at noon the next day, And I know how business works. I know how you got to go through probably legal and everything that's involved, especially with some of the sponsors and things like that as well. So,
but this event happened Saturday, right?
Yes.
Correct.
This came out yesterday, so that's what, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's 3 days.
Yeah.
And I think that just made a lot of people anxious.
Yeah. Well, and no information provides misinformation. Correct.
Yes.
True.
So
because
speculation starts running
then
rampant.
there's a lot of stuff going around like, oh, well, this happened or that happened or who hit first and all this, and so all of that stuff starts going around and we're all just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
So you guys feel that if they had made a response earlier, that would have gone over better with officials?
I think initial response saying this is not acceptable at our events.
Okay.
Period.
Right.
And then we're investigating. We're looking into the matter, and more information will be provided if once that comes available. Type of response.
Guess the way I'm looking at it, I'm going. So when it happened, the first thing came to my mind is okay. My thing is okay. The parents are acting one way, the coach is acting another way. Jim Rats is doing this, Parkview is doing that. What are we as officials doing? That's the way I was looking at it, and I was kind of the mindset. Okay, what can we do to ensure these kind of things don't happen? That's why I think the conversation I had with the other official about the rating system it had merit with me because I'm going, that's the most logical thing I've heard so far.
But who grades those officials?
Well, I think that has to be discussed, but I think that to me we're moving down the right alley in terms of discussing something that we can do and we can control to lessen the chances of that kind of stuff happening. Because I know if I was on the court, I can't say absolutely that wouldn't have happened, but I probably would have handled it a different way. I don't know all the details of what went down, but I know if I've got a parent that's acting like that, I'm going to look at them, I'm going to give them a warning, then I'm going to turn and go get somebody. Now, I did talk to the official that got into the skirmish, and he said he was on his way over there. I don't know the time.
Because he had already asked the parents to leave.
Yeah.
He had already told them that they need to leave, and then that's when it kind of got out of control even more. So.
But I'm kind of like Jake. If somebody walks up to me, I'm going to step back and get some space.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's what he did or didn't do. Go ahead, Jake. You were going to say something.
So in regards, when I have had to eject a fan, to me, I don't tell that fan until the administration tells that fan.
Okay.
I go and tell the administrator, this person needs to leave. It's their job to tell that person that they need to leave and escort them out the building. That's not my... I'm just there to point them out and say they have to go.
Well, that's another topic as well. So that's another situation that we've had issues with summer basketball, where we have ejected fans and then the staff or the administration or the tournament directors allow those fans back in. And I don't know about you, but I don't just eject anyone for just any crazy reason.
Right.
Like, there is a legitimate reason that I am asking this person to leave.
Yeah.
And that lack of backing from those organizations is another issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be taken care of. Now, whether we eject 10 people from a tournament in one day, that's not saying, okay, we're ejecting these 10 people and you have to give them their money back. Why? They're the ones acting like that. You keep their money and you have them escorted out, and we need to have some type of system that does not allow them to come back into the game, period. For the rest of that day, for the rest of that tournament, I don't know what the correct answer is, but there needs to be something in place, because, and I know that, you know, they have multiple sites, and so, okay, the team might be playing at this site in the morning and then they might go to another site in the afternoon. There needs to be some way of saying, hey, this person is not allowed in the gym, period.
Right.
I don't, a picture, you know, I don't know. You know, we have a wanted list. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, these people are not allowed in because, you know, of their behavior.
So let me ask you guys this. Give me your personal, because I think all officials think differently. What are your personal reasons for ejections? And we're talking fans, parents, or players.
Go ahead.
For me, it's the constant comments or berating of calls, no calls, basically questioning judgment. You know I'm going to miss a couple calls, and if I think I missed a call, I'm going to give them a little bit of a leeway to say their piece and then stop.
Right.
When that continues, that's when you've got to address it.
Right.
Either, hey, I've heard you, that's enough, or, hey, we're just going down a dead-end road right now, and you're not going to be here to watch the rest of the game at the end. But
right.
Now, most people feel, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, but you guys...
I'm with him. Definitely the berating.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but most people, and I'm being a parent right now, most of us as parents are going to say, you can't control what I say. You do your job. My job is to tell you what I think, and this is a free country, and I got free speech, right?
Yep.
So...
And your free speech can be out the door.
Yeah.
So, just going a bit further, so is it acceptable for a parent to give us constant comments, berating, judgments because it's a free speech country? Aren't they allowed to say whatever they want? Or does it go back to what you said, they can say what they want just outside?
I mean, I'm with Jake. It's the constant berating. I don't go to their job and tell them how bad they suck. I don't tell them, hey, you didn't put that on the shelf right. Hey, you didn't sign your name right there. I don't go and tell them how to do their job. So what in turn gives them the right to come and tell me how to do my job over and over and over again?
That's a good point.
I'm the one who's gone to training. I'm the one who has taken the test. I am the one who is a licensed official.
And running up and down the court
and
with
I am
their
the one
child.
running up and down the court. So while you're sitting over there in your happy little spot telling me how to do my job from this end of the court to this end of the court, no, it's not acceptable.
Jake? He's got that thinking look.
He does have a thinking look. That scares me. I don't know if it was something I said or...
He's thinking.
I know I'm going to miss calls, and I accept that as a referee.
I do too.
It's the fact that you think I'm again, referee, and as soon as you walk on the court, everybody expects you to be perfect and get better from there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know I'm going to miss
I
plays.
like that. Perfect and get better from there.
Yeah, I know I'm going to miss plays. The part that bothers me is someone thinking that as a referee, I'm not doing my job correctly or to the best of my ability. And I know that's not true. And I think when it crosses that line, that for me is when they need to go.
Especially when they think that you're not doing the best of your ability and you're cheating for the other team. How about that?
Yeah, that's one comment that I have a hard time swallowing.
You are cheating these kids out of the game.
Yeah.
That amazes me, because this past weekend, most of the games we had, this is hilarious, and I was talking to some of the parents about it. most of the games we had, the teams were from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, most of our teams were from Michigan.
And Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jake, they came all the way to Indiana to play each other. I was joking with parents on about 2 or 3 different games. I said,
couldn't find a gym closer.
yeah,
right.
And that's what
3
one of
hours
them said.
away.
I said, so you guys are from Grand Rapids? And she goes, yeah. And they're from Grand Rapids? She goes, yeah. I said, have you played there before? No. I was, really? Serious? No, you're joking. She goes, no. And she looked at the other mom. We haven't played them, have we? And we just met their parents. I'm going, wow. And that's, I mean, I'm not dogging, you know.
But we did have some teams that had played each other.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
But a lot of the teams had never played each other, didn't even know about each other. And I'm thinking they came all the way from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Fort Wayne to play each other. And yet and still one of the coaches is saying I'm cheating. I don't even know you people.
Right. I don't know either team.
It amazes me the stupidity that comes out of people's mouths, all because they're emotional. And I told the official I was talking to yesterday, I usually don't get any arguments from the winning team.
Sure.
You always hear this
Right.
from the losing team.
Yeah. Sure.
And if I'm terrible, at least I'm consistent. You guys want consistency, I'm consistently terrible.
Yep.
So what is the argument? I was terrible
Well,
at that end, I'm terrible at
I want to
this
talk
end.
about consistency. Let's be consistent. Well, I'm sorry. Can you be consistent when you're playing then? And can you make every shot that you throw up there? And make all of your free throws, by the way, because they are free.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're complaining about getting fouled, and I give you a foul, and then you go to the free throw line and you miss your free throws, please stop talking.
Yes.
Ma'am, that has nothing to do with anything. You're being unprofessional.
Oh, that's right. Because we are held to a higher standard.
So, Jake, what do you think about that when you're told to be professional? Have you ever been told that as an official? No, because you're always professional.
He's always professional.
I'm sure it's came out a couple times. It probably bounced off because I've thought I've been professional. There's been, there's points where you've had enough, and I've probably haven't not been professional enough.
Right.
So you guys give me some other reasons that you would eject people. Because you said
language.
Language, yes. Yep.
From fans.
Parents, fans, players.
Yeah.
Coaches.
So we got constant comments, berating judgments. We got language. Anything else?
Obviously fighting.
Coming on the court, yeah.
Coming on the court, yeah.
Yeah. If you step on the court, you're not where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And anything else you can think of? Because I'm going to pass these out to the parents. These are the reasons you can leave.
What are we going to have, like little
cheat
sheets printed
Here you
up?
go, ma'am. Here you go,
This is why
sir.
we're going to eject you. Here
Why are
you
you
go.
guys being so negative when I walk in? We're just being proactive.
We're being proactive.
Jake said, and Tanya said. So seriously, any other reasons you could think of for ejections?
I mean, you talk about foul counts. I mean, in a matter of speaking, they're basically telling you you're cheating.
Yes.
That's true.
And
Yes.
That's true.
It's I've been to many camps where some of the clinicians have said, if they talk about foul count, they're basically telling you that you're cheating.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way.
Yep.
They don't think they are.
Right.
But they are telling you that you're cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a player tell me that, and I said, well, thank you for telling me. I said, I'm glad you can read.
I had a player tell me that, and I looked at him and said, well, stop hitting people. And he says, yeah, you're right, right. Stop hitting people. I won't call a foul.
Yeah. The old saying is, I don't count them, I just call them.
Yes, right. I
Yep.
don't count them, I just
Yep.
call them. So any other things you can think of for ejections? And I know this is a question we don't get very often.
Yeah, I mean, those are
These are
obviously the biggest
main
things.
And I think in my 22-year career, I've only ejected 3 people.
Really?
Yes.
You talking
Two of them have been summer. There have been one fan or 2 fans. Sorry, 2
now
fans.
that's interesting. Three
and 1
times,
coaches.
and 2 have been what?
Fans.
And when?
Summer.
Summer.
1 was during sectional semifinals.
Oh.
But 2 were summer.
2 were summer.
That,
Yes.
if that tells people anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
People get, because when I was talking to one of the leaders of Gym Rats the other day, he said, for whatever reason, he said people will pay their $15, come in here, and they think they can act any way they want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I never thought about that.
So maybe $15 isn't enough.
Well, and that's the other side. If they want to make this a business, which they are, and not pay the officials what I think we should be paid, I think our pay cut is paying for their security.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting.
why not make the people who are causing the problems pay for the solution?
Yeah.
And in my opinion,
So
that is more security. That is somebody more proactive, walking around the courts. Again, having a feel for what's going on in that game, knowing the hot spots in the gym, and just sitting in the fan section and say, hey, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Yeah.
But you said our pay cut is paying for their what?
For their security.
Yeah.
So we're paying for our own security, basically. But if they want to make this a business and charge people admission, charge people concessions, get sponsorships, have apparel sales, all that goes in addition to the entry fee, why I don't go out and buy a new car and tell the dealership, well, the tires on there don't look safe. I need 4 new tires on there. Okay, we'll get you 4 new tires, but I'm the one paying for it. The dealership's not going to pay for that. As an official, as an employee, independent contractor, but as an employee of that business, why am I having to pay out of my pocket for my own security?
So we should, not only should we get a pay raise, we need better security.
More proactive
security.
proactive security.
Yes.
Guy sitting at the front desk talking to the lady taking admission money is not
security.
Proactive.
Yes.
He's there after the fact.
Right.
After that guy runs out on the floor and goes after me.
Exactly. Maybe charge more admissions, or maybe we just stop having fans. Maybe we stop. Maybe
you remember COVID.
Maybe we go back to 2020 where we didn't have fans and it was nice and quiet in there.
Yep. Drop your kids off. Let them practice.
Yeah.
Play their game. Pick them up in an hour.
You can go sit at the hotel, or
but that's going to hurt their business.
It is going to hurt their business.
So again, that goes back to my first point.
Do we want officials to officiate the game, or do we want recess? Because without us, it's just recess, right?
Correct.
It's just practice.
Just practice.
So
I have to agree with everything you guys are saying, but the problem I have with the no fan thing, well, we all don't like that.
We didn't like it.
It
really wasn't
for us.
fun.
But the other thing is, because of a few knucklehead parents,
right,
we're even having this discussion.
And it's not just parents. Let's put
few
that out there.
Coaches
we have
and
knucklehead
players.
coaches. We have knucklehead players. So,
but if you take all the people that are problem people, it's a small inkling of the total number of people that participate in the sport we love.
Absolutely,
it's a very tiny amount. I mean, you're talking maybe not even 1%. Because you think about all the games we officiated this past weekend, which was a total of 7. How many people did we have to deal with that were difficult? There weren't a lot.
No, there were a few though. I mean, we had the one coach.
I think I can count them on one hand.
We had the one coach that we, as the game was coming to an end, he really started to amp up.
Was that the one that was telling us it was 9-1? Okay, that's one.
He was really starting to amp up.
We had
we had a couple of his players.
Okay.
We had a couple players on another team.
So it's really a small number.
Right.
So that's my point. And as people are listening and watching, I want them to know that we as officials, we don't think the world is like this. We just know that we're tired of dealing with the idiots that make it bad for everybody.
Right.
Well, and to your point, Tanya, the coach started to amp up, and what did you say after that? The players started to amp up.
Right.
Yeah.
So
True.
that example that coach is setting impacts his players, and now it filters over into the fans sometimes as well.
Right.
So
you're absolutely right.
It's
I was talking to one of the people that called me yesterday, and he's a coach. He runs a major program here, and he said, Crane, what bothers me the most is not the incident. He said, what bothers me the most is when you watch the video towards the end, you could see the kids over there. He said the kids, see how they were responding.
Yes.
He said they were standing there and then when he said, I'd seen it the first time, but when he really emphasized it, I watched it again, and he's right. The kid was pointing at the people, then he was pointing at the guy with the camera. He's like,
And he was dancing.
yeah. And I go,
Now that was the winning team though.
I don't know which team was winning, but it was just.
It's not the reaction you expect with a fight.
Right.
Well, nowadays I do.
And now,
expect
mind
that
you,
reaction out of
again,
kids.
this was these were 8th graders.
Right.
So
Yes.
8th graders, and
But
you have
they're-
to think their mentality is,
They-
hey, this
they
is a
love-
party.
Well,
you
and
know,
these things.
yeah. And
They-
I'm on video, so now it's
Yeah.
going to be my few minutes of
Oh
fame.
yeah, I'm gonna be on TikTok, and we're gonna see me dancing behind these parents acting a fool, and that's the
And that's the
point he
part
was
where the
making.
video could have cut out. Like nobody needed to see that.
Well,
You know.
Well, when you got a parent just wants to capture it, and it may have been a kid. I don't know who filmed it, but it's got how many views?
A lot. Millions.
Millions.
Now, one
yeah.
thing I want to go back to, Jake, you said this has caused a lot of officials to walk away from summer basketball. And I've heard a statistic that since COVID, we've lost about 50,000 officials in multiple sports across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So being the chairperson, you might be more familiar with the numbers. So are those numbers real?
Locally, we're not seeing that drastic of a drop,
Okay.
but talking with other officials that I do college with in other parts of the state or other areas of the country, yes, it's coming to that drastic of a reduction in officials. And like you said, it's not just basketball.
Right.
It's football, it's baseball, it's volleyball.
It's volleyball. Yeah, it's all
you
of
know,
them.
it's across the board, because a lot of the officials that were in that group were older officials,
Mhm.
and they either didn't want to deal with the regulations or whatever going on, the disease that was going on. They were retirement age, so they decided, hey, this is a good time to get out.
Mhm.
And then the third piece of that is they didn't want to deal with everything else that we're dealing with this week.
Right.
You know, so
So besides aging out,
mhm.
the other things that are contributing to us falling off are obviously behavior from
Mhm.
parents, coaches, and players.
Yeah.
What other reasons are you seeing that's making people fall away from officiating?
I think just time commitment. I mean, when I first started officiating, I mean, economy-wise, it was a good second job. It was a good supplemental income to help with, you know, maybe not a very strong economy or not a very strong job market. So it kind of gave people a second option. Where I think now the economy's kind of sliding back down, but
Mhm.
2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, right, you know, before, during, after COVID, I mean, the economy was doing very well. So
Mhm.
people wanted to use their time and energy and focus in other areas. So officiating wasn't top of mind.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's a piece of it. Is it was always billed as something that could supplement your income and, you know, gain exercise and, you know, all the benefits that way. But
Mhm. That makes sense. Yeah.
so
And I know there's other people that have been, you know, and as you know, we have the class that we recruit and
Mhm.
train officials. And,
Yep.
you know, I had one contact me yesterday and he says, hey, Crane, I saw this thing somebody sent this to me and I watched it. It's like, damn. And I thought, and he's trying to get into our next class. So the first
Mhm.
thing went through my mind is I have to
Salvage
I have
that.
to salvage this.
right.
So I
Yeah.
sent him, I don't know, 3 or 4 long texts,
Mhm.
most of it saying some of the things we've said. And, you know, I said, as officials, I said, we're kind of like the police. When somebody comes after one of our own, we go after them. I
Right.
said, so
Mhm.
they're being prosecuted and we're sitting down with, I told him, I said, we're sitting down with the chair of the Basketball Association so we can discuss ways we can combat this. And because in my mind, I got to do everything I can to make people realize it's still a good industry because we love
Yes.
it.
Right.
All 3 of us love it.
Yeah. Yep.
We look forward to it. We tell people all the time, for us, our therapy is to go officiate. That's
Yep.
therapy
Exactly.
for us.
Exactly.
And so, you know, there's people out there that are watching this whole situation. So I'm glad you came on because we had to talk about it and let
Mhm.
people know where officials stand as an association. And, I'm really glad that we had a chance to spend time with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming back on again. Appreciate it. And hopefully if, if anybody has any suggestions on things that we can do, ways that we can improve the situation, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yep.
and before we go off, one thing I got to share.
So, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. We shared them last time.
Oh.
Let everybody know. We got the newest gear. Tanya and I have our gear
Have our gear on.
Look at
And
that.
Because we're ref
Yeah.
junkies.
yeah, it's Ref Junkie. It says Ref Junkies, trust the process. And on the back it says Ref Junkie, noun. It is a noun. A referee with a compulsive habit or obsessive dependency on officiating. Jake, would that fit you? With a smile on your face, I think that fits you.
My wife would say yes.
So we have these in gray, short sleeve T-shirts. We
Long
also have
sleeve.
them in black, long sleeve T-shirts.
And
same
we also
exact
have
same.
sweatshirts.
And we have hoodies, and we have them black short sleeve. So just want to share it because everybody's been bothering us. When you guys can get some gear? So we have a partner down in
Kentucky.
who is running Ref Junkies, and we're like, that's a cool logo. We gotta promote that. So we're joint on that. So with that, we want to thank you guys for joining us again, and we want to wish you Happy court time, but I guess there's other sports. We should say happy sporting.
Happy sporting
Happy
time.
sporting. Can
I don't know.
we coin that? I don't know. It sounds pretty
It
corny.
sounded corny.
We'll work on it. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks again for listening to Ref Time, powered by RefTrainingschool.com and Hoosier3on3.com. Produced by Coraggio Media, Ref Time is recorded in WELT Studios in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana.
To join RTS, visit reftrainingschool.com. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time.